Bem-vindos a mais um programa podcast da SBC, direto do Congresso Brasileiro de Coluna, 19º Congresso Brasileiro de Coluna, segundo Congresso Brasil-Argentina de Coluna, direto da cidade de Recife. Programa SBC Podcast hoje tem a honra e o privilégio de entrevistar um dos nossos convidados internacionais mais solenes, mais experientes, um grande nome da cirurgia da coluna mundial, coordenador do serviço de coluna da Cornell University em Nova York, Professor Roger HÄRTL. Professor Roger HÄRTL, very nice to have you here. We have to thank you very much for the acceptance of the invitation. It's a great pleasure on behalf of the Brazilian Spine Society. It's a great pleasure for us to have you here. I just want to open the podcast saying this word for you and inviting you to share a little bit of your experience in spine surgery with our audience. We have a very mixed audience in the podcast, so be free to drive this interview whatever you want to go. And I want to ask you a few questions about your career and how you move from Germany to US, a little bit of the pathway you have to pursue to become one of the most important spine surgeons in the world right now, a very recognized surgeon and one of the biggest name on our meeting. Thank you very much.
Well, Rodrigo, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be in Brazil. It's a beautiful country and it's a beautiful meeting. And what I mean by that is that I'm stunned by the enthusiasm and the activity that you see here where the companies are, but also in the lecture halls and in the questions and the interaction between the participants. So I'm extremely excited to be here. Thank you so much. And also thank you for the kind words of introduction.
Oh, absolutely. My pleasure. It's our pleasure, actually. And the success of this meeting is, of course, part of the success of this meeting is because we have a very good international staff.
Yes.
Speaking here, the faculty of the meeting was amazing. We're reaching over 1,300 participants here. So it's one of the biggest meetings in the history of Brazilian Spine Society. And we definitely know that this is only possible because of you guys. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I just want to take this a little bit more personal than going to a technical interview. I think we learn much more from people's history and from the mistakes that you made, how you create success in your life, what you learn with your masters, and how people influence you to follow this pathway. And of course, if you have something to advise people, please share this.
Many things. Well, you asked me about my background, so I can tell you a few words. So I'm originally from Germany, but actually half German and half Italian. So I grew up in Germany and in Italy, and then my mother's Italian, my father's German. I went to medical school in Munich in Bavaria, and then I was involved in research during medical school, primarily research concerning traumatic brain injury. So I'm a neurosurgeon. So I had the opportunity then to go to New York to spend some time doing research at Cornell. At the time there was a group there that was very interested in traumatic brain injury. Is your background, you're a neurosurgeon, right?
I'm orthopedic surgeon.
You're orthopedic, right.
My father is a neurosurgeon. We kind of worked together for many years, so I understand the background.
So yeah, I mean, my background was traumatic brain injury, and then I was really planning on returning to Germany and starting my residency there and starting a career in neurosurgery. But I always loved traveling. I always enjoyed traveling and learning from other people, which is one of the lessons I guess that I would convey to your listeners, the young surgeons. And I see that much more really in your country and other countries than in North America. The North American young surgeons, they don't travel that much, but your surgeons here, they're very open-minded and they travel. And I was the same way at the time. I was always interested in going to other places, and I had the opportunity to spend 2 years in New York during research. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, I fell in love with New York, which was another problem. So I was always
a good problem.
I was trying to find a way to, how can I build a future in New York? And that, as a foreigner, that is extremely difficult, and I just decided to stay there, do research, publish papers, and go to meetings. I met a lot of people who were involved in neurosurgery at the time, and I was very, very lucky that I was able then to do a residency in the United States. but it was not in New York, it was in Pittsburgh. So I did my residency initially in Pittsburgh for 1 year or 2 years, and then I transferred back to New York. There was an opening in New York. So
You redone your neurosurgical training?
no, I did medical school in Germany. I never worked as a neurosurgeon in Germany. I did 1 year in a hospital there in Berlin, but I really did my neurosurgery residency in the US. So then when I decided to go back to New York, initially my interest was head trauma, but as you can imagine, also as an orthopedic surgeon, surgically it's not that challenging. You can't really, as a neurosurgeon, it's very difficult really to build a convincing career in head trauma because it's really, a lot of it is really intensive care these days, for good reason. And the technical aspects are not that really exciting, unfortunately. So then in New York, I realized, well, there's really a lot of spine surgeons, but what New York really needs is a comprehensive approach to spine care. And that was not really the case. When I was a young, older resident and when I came back as an attending, I realized that there's a real opportunity in New York City to build a very, very comprehensive and very successful spine program. And then in 2004, I did my fellowship in Phoenix at the Barrows Neurological Institute with Volker Sonntag. And Sonntag was a great, great inspiration for me and a great mentor. And when I came back to New York, I realized, well, I can really, I guess, spend a lifetime building a spine program in New York. And that's what I embarked on, and that's what I've been working on now since 2004.
And it looks like you achieved, your goals because you're the head of the spine department of the Cornell University, a prestigious university from New York City. So you did it.
Yeah, well, I did it, but it's work in progress. I certainly did a lot of work, and again, you keep in mind you can't do this on your own, right? It's another lesson for the young surgeons. You got to surround yourself with talent. Yep. You got to have a supportive chairman. I'm not the chairman of the department. I have a chairman who is very, very supportive of this work and actually really was always available and always pushing, us to build a spine program. So you need those things, especially in a place like New York, because you can also get lost and you can go in one direction, and if you don't have any support, it's not going to go anywhere. So I had the support from the institution, the support from my chairman, and I had the support of fellows. And a lot of these fellows were visiting fellows from your country, your part of the world, from Europe, Africa, Asia, all over the place. And those are really fellows who spent years with me and helped us with a lot of the research, for example, a lot of the publications. We would never have been able to do a lot of this if it had not been really for visiting fellows who then went back to their countries to start successful careers.
Hosting this podcast for over like 2 days now, 3 days now with the Brazilian Spine Society meeting.
Yes.
There's two words that impacts me more on the success stories. One is curiosity, and definitely this is part of your success is just because of you a curious guy. Yes. You want to do something better and something different every time. And the other one is passion. Yeah. So I can tell, looking to your face that is you completely passionate by what you do. I know you host a course every year for like 20 years in New York on innovations for spine surgery. And I have been part of this course like 12, 13 years ago.
Yes.
And every year is becoming better and better and better, and you never stop. So this is part of your passion, right?
Well, it is, and there's a lesson learned here, and I'm mentioning not only because it's your father, but when I was in 2004 or 5, when I started as a neurosurgeon, I was always excited about the location, practicing in New York at Cornell. We did not have a strong spine program. And I was thinking, well, how can we get this started? And one of the ways to get it started is with putting together a course. And it's, if you have the passion, the curiosity, if you have the energy, the support, you can do this relatively easily, and then I needed somebody who had the gravitas and the reputation to get this off the ground, and that was clearly your father. Because especially at the time I was interested in minimally invasive spine surgery, and he was at the time already really the one name that everybody respected and everybody
also
knew.
Passion and curiosity.
So I asked him, and I'm still surprised that he said yes. and that was 17 years ago.
Yeah.
And we still do this course every year. And and he always challenges me, because he always comes up. He always says things. It's so annoying. He's always challenging me, but it made me a better surgeon, better person, because I always look forward to our discussions, and it's just great. It's been a great thing. And again, that's one of the advice that I would have for younger surgeon. Travel, look around, surround yourself by mentors that you respect, that other people also respect, and just don't just go in one direction. Just really be open-minded.
No, that's very purse. I would say purse. Another question that I want to make you is, first, we're very thankful for all the supports that AO have been done to Brazilian Spine Society over many years. We have a strong relationship between Brazil and the AO for many years, especially because of the Viali leadership.
Yes.
And I know you have a strong relationship with AO. So first, thank you for keeping supporting the Brazilian Spine Society. We're glad to have this strong connection, this strong partnership with the AO Spine. And I want to hear from you, what makes AO not a society but a community, and how you think this represents probably the only and major international community on spine surgery in the world.
Yeah, that's really a good question, because when I started working with the AO, why did I start working with the AO? Well, part of it was maybe my background, because I'm from Europe, so I knew about the AO already when I was a medical student, right? And I was always interested in the aspect of teaching and training, and the passion that you see in the AO historically, if you go back 70 years now, it really comes from teaching and training. The founders of the AO in the 1950s in Switzerland were passionate orthopedic surgeons who would travel. In those days, they would go on day trips to India to teach a course.
Yeah.
They did that in the 60s and 70s. It's unbelievable. We do this nowadays and we complain, but they were so passionate. And then obviously the other thing is that they were business smart, because they surrounded themselves with individuals who made sure that whatever they worked on was put into intellectual property, and then there was synthes there. So the difference between the AO, in my opinion, and many other organizations is that they have a background that supports them because of the way that it was structured originally. Now that has changed somewhat, but they still have a very significant financial backing that allows them to do things that most of the other organizations just can't do. I think it's an opportunity. It's also responsibility. And what I'm very impressed by is that the AO nowadays has tried to separate themselves from a lot of the obligations that they came with towards particular companies.
Yes.
But they've really maintained the possibility of funneling a lot of this into training and organization. And so the AO has an amazing position now, and I think they've done amazing work. I've been involved with them in many different aspects over the years, and I've always been impressed. Yeah, I think you need both. Obviously you need the local organizations, you need NAS, you need the spine sections, you need ESMIS for minimal invasive. Those are all important societies. The beauty of the AO is that if you really have an idea and they buy into that, they actually have the resources to make it happen. And that's what I've really been impressed with.
Yeah, I think they complementary. So the societies have one specific rule,
of course,
that is very important, but because put together a bunch of surgeons and have some education proposed, training from young to young surgeons. And AO as a community is much more is broad, is much more inclusive. So I think they complement each other.
Absolutely. Now right now we're doing an online course for minimally invasive spine surgery, and there are 70 participants from all over the world, and there's no other organizations who could put that together. So there's an online course. And you get these messages now on a daily basis from surgeons all over. They all introduce themselves. It's unbelievable, the talent that's out there and the passion among young surgeons to learn about MIS. So it's really exciting.
Yeah, it is. And we have to thank you guys for keeping supporting our society. We're very glad to have you guys among us. So it's been very useful. I'm a member of the AO since the beginning beginning, since
Yes.
the first meeting in Porto de Galinhas was in the north of the country, also over 15 years ago. So since that time, as I'm a member of the AO since the foundation.
When was that?
That was about 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Yeah, 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah, and the Latin
2010,
American section
2012.
has been particularly active.
Yes,
And,
yes.
and also I get this, I talked to Cristiano about that and Nestor the other day, that you seem to have a coherence and really a collegiality amongst the surgeons involved in the AO, but maybe also beyond that in Latin America, that is very different from what you see in other parts of the world. And I wonder where that comes from, but it's certainly being here at the meeting and looking around, I can see that there's so much, collegiality and passion. So it's really,
and there's a lot of things going on. Okay, as you can see, we in the middle of the sponsors area, and there's a lot of investments of the industry, a lot of curiosity, a lot of new technologies coming. So for us, we have to keep going, move forward.
Well, you're doing the right thing.
The final question for you would be: it's your first time in Brazil. I know it's not. If you're enjoying the Brazilian Spine Society meeting, and if you have any final consideration, especially for young surgeons, would be very helpful.
Yes. Well, we talked about that a little bit. What I would recommend to young surgeons is, well, that's almost a little bit unfortunate, but I think in a way nowadays, because if you become an orthopedic surgeon or a neurosurgeon, you probably should start thinking about what it is within that specialty that you're going to gravitate towards. And if it's spine, and even in spine, almost we're at the point, right?
Yeah.
We have Dan Rue in New York, who's one of my partners, who does only cervical. There are spine surgeons now who only do endoscopy. I know even in Brazil, endoscopy is very big now.
It's growing,
and so it's good and bad, right? But it's the reality, and I think it is probably for patients. At the end of the day, it's probably be good. I mean, the whole idea of subspecialization is good. So as a young surgeon, I think you should start thinking about that. You should still try to get a comprehensive training, but start thinking early on about what it is that you would want to do later on, and then plan your career a little bit around that. Travel, visiting different places, or going away for fellowship is extremely important. Finding mentors who can teach you along the way, not only while you're doing it, but also later on when you're on your own. You want to have somebody you can call up, you can discuss cases, or if you get into trouble, if you get then somebody who understands where you're from and has been there and can help you. So that's very helpful. And always look at the science. I love working with industry, but as a young surgeon, sometimes you get carried away by new technology and you kind of lose sight of the science and rational aspects of it. And then I've made that mistake early on, where I got myself into trouble because I was so excited about minimally invasive, and I did a few things, and I just didn't have the outcome that I was looking for. So I'd be careful in that regard, without being obviously too conservative, but you kind of, you got to find a middle path.
The balance.
Yeah. Yes.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for this. We really enjoy and really appreciate the efforts for being here. I know you're very busy. You have to save some time in your tight schedule. So we really appreciate your presence here.
It's a real honor to be here. And I had a great day today. The last 3 days were amazing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rodrigo.
Thank you.